Good afternoon. We'll begin today with an invocation from Police Chaplain Levertov.
Almighty God, this week in synagogues throughout the world, we read the story of Abraham, who discovers God through reasoning that there is a power above and beyond all the visible forces of nature, a power who had created them. Behind the limited power of all nature, young Abraham perceived the unlimited and timeless existence of God. Then God made himself known to Abraham and taught him the right way of living. In turn, Abraham shared with everyone he encountered the noble values and ethics to making this world a better place, a world that is home to God with peace, justice, hospitality and sharing, and respect for all mankind. Abraham's legacy and teachings continue to impact mankind to this day. As God declared, I cherish Abraham because he instructs his children and his household after him to keep God's ways by acting with righteousness and justice. Abraham taught us that even when we are challenged by our own family, friends, and community, stand up for what is right and be the change agent for what is right and good. Almighty God, grant our mayor and the honored members of the Phoenix City Council the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to govern our great city. May they be guided by the Almighty's hand in enacting dictates that serve the citizens of Phoenix well, now and in the future. May the mayor and the good members of this council continue to embody and encourage a spirit of cooperation, respect, and peace amongst all citizens of Phoenix and act with righteousness and justice as Abraham taught. And may they continue to serve as positive role models for our beautiful community. Finally, bless our mayor, council members, as well as each of us assembled here, the citizens of our city, state, and this great nation with good health, peace, and prosperity. And let us say amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. Councilwoman Hodge Washington will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Galindo Elvira.
Mayor, thank you for recognizing me. I want to thank Rabbi Levertov for that beautiful invocation, prayer that invoked Abraham and the blessing that he bestowed upon us. Thank you, Rabbi.
We'll now call to order the formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilman Galindo Elvira.
Here.
Councilwoman Guardado. Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Here.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilman Robinson.
Here.
Councilman Waring.
Here.
Vice Mayor Stark.
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Here. Daniel is here to provide interpretation. Would you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, my name is Daniel Feliciano, and together with my colleague, Elsie Duarte, we'll be serving as Spanish interpreters for today's City Council formal meeting. I'll now take a moment to introduce ourselves to our Spanish-speaking audience and review some guidelines. Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la reunión formal del Consejo Municipal. Mi nombre es Daniel Feliciano y junto con mi colega Elsie Duarte estaremos sirviendo hoy como intérpretes a nuestra audiencia de habla hispana. Deseamos pedirles de antemano si van a dar un comentario público, por favor, hable despacio, con claridad y evite tener distracciones de fondo. Finalmente, pause después de cada una de dos oraciones para poder interpretar lo que está diciendo de la manera más completa posible. Gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Will the city clerk read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G7315 through 7323, S51380 through 51423, and resolutions 22260 through 22262.
Thank you. I'll now turn to our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items. Comments must be related to the agenda item and the action being considered by the council. General comments that go beyond the scope of the agenda item must be made in the citizen comment session at the end of the agenda. The city council and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigation. Additionally, any member of the public who appears before council in their capacity as a lobbyist must, as required by Phoenix City Code, disclose this fact before addressing council. The city code requires speakers to present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules will lose the opportunity to continue to speak.
Thank you. We'll now move to the meeting minutes. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, I approve the formal meeting minutes, which are items 1, 2, and 4, and recommend continuing item 3 to November 20th, 2024.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. Boards and commissions. Vice Mayor.
I move to approve the mayor and city council boards and commission nominations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. We will now conduct a brief swearing-in ceremony. Please raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of, state your office, according to the best of my ability, so help me God. Congratulations, Commissioner. Congratulations to our newest Human Service Commissioner. We provide an advisory role at the City Council to the state on liquor licenses, and now we'll move to that portion of the agenda. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Yes, I move to approve items 6 through 15, except item 8, which is being continued to December 18th, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances, resolutions, new business, planning, and zoning?
Yes, Mayor.
Vice Mayor.
Mayor, I move to approve items 16 through 79, except the following: items 37, 38, 72, and 79, noting that item 73 is being continued to January 22nd, 2025. Item 74 is being continued to December 4th, 2024, and items 75 through 78 are being continued to November 20th, 2024. And can the clerk confirm if there are any other items that should be excluded for in-person public comment?
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, also excluding item 33. That's item 33.
Great, we have a motion. Did we get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Waring, Stark, Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
We next go to the Shade Phoenix Plan. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I move to approve item 33.
Second.
Jessica Bueno.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Gallego and council members. My name is Jessica Bueno, and I am the Clean and Green Campaign Specialist with Chispa, Arizona. At Chispa, Arizona, we strive for clean air, safe water, and healthy neighborhoods for the communities being impacted by the detrimental impacts of climate change. The Shade Phoenix plan was reviewed with our members, and some of the feedback includes acknowledgement of the tribal lands we currently occupy and detailed information of what assistance will be provided to residents who plant trees. We thank Dr. Hondula, Laura, Kayla, and all staff and interns at the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation for all their work in updating the Shade Phoenix plan. We are also thankful to be partners in this work. On October 26th, we celebrated 50 trees being planted in the Maryville neighborhood, and this work was led by our youth comite, who had been actively engaging residents by informing them of these grant opportunities. We appreciate the strategies and actions detailed in the plan, especially around prioritizing shade for children, expanding the Cool Corridors network, and the accountability of providing an annual progress report. There's many aspects of the plan that can help advance life-saving heat mitigation strategies in our neighborhoods, and I hope with the creation of the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation that this plan is actually executed. One area we would like to follow up on is the workforce development elements. How will non-English speakers residents be made aware of the opportunity to become certified arborists? Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm supportive of this. I will say for those who have noticed, because people have mentioned them to me, the trees that have gone up, I think it's fantastic. The ones that I've already seen. I think it makes a huge difference, just not only the look and feel of neighborhoods, but also, of course, the shade. I would ask staff, as I have before on similar issues, you know, if the trees die, that's a bad look for us. So I know I've brought this up before, and I've given examples of where we've got, you know, kind of rows of trees, I guess because of irrigation, or maybe they were just, as my dad used to say, sometimes it's the plant's fault. I don't know, but we need to go ahead. You know, having trees be just planted and then dying is not optimal, doesn't help with shade, doesn't help with the look of the neighborhood. So we just need to make sure that maintenance is a key component of this. Again, staff knows I've pointed out several areas. You know, most of them are thriving, and it makes a huge difference. I love what I see, Deb, the ones in District 3 by Cactus and the 51, because I drive through District 3 pretty much every day. Those make a huge difference in the look of that area, much less the shade. But please make sure the trees stay alive. Thank you.
Councilman Galindo Avira.
Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Jessica, thank you so much for bringing your concerns to the attention of the City Council. I can speak that in District 7, we are having a renaissance of trees. I've been to several tree planting ceremonies at schools, but most importantly, not most importantly, one thing that I really want to bring to everyone's attention is the wonderful work and extraordinary work of our forestry division. They put a lot of care and a lot of time in ensuring that the trees are planted well. I got a personal lesson from them last week when we planted 20 trees at Desert West in Maryvale. And I don't know if they get enough attention, but I wanted to make sure that they got it today, because these workers put their heart into making sure that we have the shade, and they take care of over 100,000 trees in the city. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. In Phoenix, we know shade can be a lifeline, whether it be on hot summer days under a tree or a ramada. Our downtown has had visitors from as far away as Australia to study what we've done with shade through the Walkable Urban Code. Our new Shade Phoenix plan is a comprehensive, intentional, data-driven plan. Over the next 5 years, the city will invest $60 million to plant 27,000 new native trees and build more than 500 new shade structures across the city. We'll do that with a mix of federal funding from the Biden administration, as well as local funding that our Phoenix voters resoundingly approved last year for heat resiliency projects. These hundreds of structures and thousands of trees will be put in areas in our city where they're critically needed and where they will thrive. Today's passage would be wonderful news for our city, and I'm so excited to put it in action. I want to thank the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation, the community groups, our residents, Bloomberg Associates, and the local nonprofits who have made contributions to this ambitious and achievable plan. We're so thankful that so many of our groups in our community celebrate milestones, whether it be our Sikh community with the 550th anniversary of their guru's birth, or TGen celebrating one of our great cancer researchers' milestone birthday by planting trees with the city of Phoenix. And that is just one of the many ways you can get involved. We'll go next to online. I think I heard Councilwoman Pastor and then Councilwoman O'Brien. Or did I just hear Councilwoman O'Brien? Councilwoman O'Brien.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I just wanted to ask about, in the future, considering some of our buildings, that as we continue to build up, that our shade plan would also add looking at that shade from that in addition to the trees and structures. I want to thank Accenture, who just helped us plant many trees at Acoma Park in my district. I really appreciate them all coming out. And I couldn't agree more with Councilman Waring. It is important to me that if we plant them, that we keep them alive. I also want to make sure that our budget and our future plans take into account all of that operation and maintenance of our trees. But I am thankful to our Office of Heat Mitigation for the work they're doing and the help they're providing to our communities. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilwoman Pastor and then Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. I just want to congratulate everybody in tree planting around across our city, but most importantly, there were 400 volunteers at Steel Indian Park just a week ago planting 400 trees within our park and within our city. So shade is very important. So is water and finding and designating trees that are drought resistance also is important. And so I want to commend actually everybody for supporting this and making it happen. So thank you.
Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. I come at the end of many comments in support of the shade plan. I do believe it's an important part of continue to make our city a livable and enjoyable place. Shade is also great to look at, but it's not a luxury for some. It's a necessity for many. We need to ensure that those, especially in the lower income parts of our community, continue to be prioritized for shades, and because it does make the difference for many of them, their energy bills, for their ability to walk through their communities. And I just want to make sure we continue to stress that. Maintenance is definitely important. As we continue to focus on these new trees, I would ask that we continue to pay attention to some of the trees that have been here for some time. I've received a few complaints about water and irrigation to certain trees, and I just wanted to stress that as well. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer as I talk about these, because I do believe in the shade plan, but I want to make sure that we are continuing to not just celebrate the new trees that we are putting in, but we also are taking care of the ones that we currently have. This is a phenomenal program. We do realize that trees make a difference when it comes to the ambient temperature of our community. And as we continue to see rising temperatures in our community, we need trees more than ever. So I am more than supportive of the shade plan. Again, congratulations to the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation. And thank you for all of the community members that participated in the process and the feedback. And I know there's no one at the dais for the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation, but I would ask that we do ensure that we respond to the community member, Ms. Bueno's concerns that were raised in her comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. For those of you who are not with us in person, the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation Director did a thumbs up, which is city speak for we're on it.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Waring, Stark,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Passes unanimously. We now have a great updated tree and shade master plan. Congratulations to all who worked on it, and now we'll get to work. Item 37 is a public hearing and resolution to approve the 2025 Downtown Enhanced Municipal Services District Assessment. We'll open the public hearing. We do not have anyone here to comment, so I will close the public hearing. In the next agenda item, we will move forward on payment for the 2025 Enhanced Municipal Services District. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Yes, I moved item 38.
Second. We have a motion and a second. This item will help us with a safer, secure downtown and also plant some trees in our downtown. Any comments? Roll call.
Galina Elvira,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Waring, Stark,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Item 72 is land use assumption and infrastructure improvement plans for updating the development fee impact program. I will introduce our Deputy City Manager, Alan Stevenson, who will introduce many of the folks who have helped lead on this issue, including our committee chairwoman. Alan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'm joined at the dais here with me, Adam Miller, who is the Deputy Director within the Planning and Development Department, who oversees our infrastructure financing team, as well as Heidi Kimball of Sunbelt Holdings, who is our chair of our ad hoc committee that has helped us develop the land use assumptions and infrastructure improvement plans. We are here to discuss the first of 4 public hearings related to updating our impact fees that help us pay for the capital costs of new infrastructure that is required to serve new developing areas of the city, along with a proportionate share of the new development costs that will implement advanced water purification to ensure future water resiliency that will allow for the city to continue to grow and prosper well into the future. As I said, this is the first of 4 public hearings on this matter, and it takes place after 14 different impact fee ad hoc committee meetings that were led by Heidi. This committee acts as a sounding board to provide feedback to staff and the consultants that we hire to develop the background analytical data necessary to support a robust impact fee program. The committee is comprised of development community stakeholders from various industries, along with affordable housing and open space preservation person from the city. The impact fee program update is led by the Planning and Development Department, and Josh Bednarik and his team work with all the various departments that you see. We go through and discuss here, leadership with them to come up with these projections for their infrastructure needs and then put them into the necessary plans to serve development in the future here. So this first slide talks about what are impact fees, and their charges that are applied at the time a building permit is issued on new development that helps fund public facilities to serve that new development. It's collected only in designated impact fee service areas shown on the map here in different colors, and their different colors represent different areas because there's different infrastructure necessary to serve the new development within those areas. It is restricted to planned improvements only, so things that are in the plan that are necessary from a bigger picture service perspective are included. Other smaller items that are requirements of development have to be paid by whoever's developing those parcels in the future. The other important thing about impact fees is they are not for operating, maintenance, or replacement costs. It's only upfront capital costs. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Adam Miller, and then we'll be back for questions at the end.
Thank you, Alan. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Land use assumptions and infrastructure improvement plans are updated every 5 years in accordance with Arizona statutes. The last time, see here, sorry about that. The last time we did this update in the fall of 2019, TSMC had not been announced. The South Mountain Freeway had not yet been opened. It had been more than a decade since the last GEO bond had been approved in 2006. So these updates are an opportunity for the city to incorporate new information and to adapt to new conditions. Impact fees help pay for the first time capital expense of certain city facilities that are necessary to serve new development. Arizona statutes define necessary public services and specify the types of facilities that can be included in an impact fee program. You can see that the City of Phoenix collects fees for fire and police facilities, including certain equipment, fire trucks, patrol vehicles. We also collect for parks at library facilities, street facilities, including bridges, storm drainage, which is essentially our regional flood control projects, as well as our wet utilities, all of the wastewater and water system facilities and water supply under our water resource acquisition fee. All of the facilities included in our infrastructure improvement plans meet the definition of a necessary public service, and in that sense are not discretionary if we were to move forward maintaining the quality of life and quality of service that the city is accustomed to. Impact fees are determined through a data-driven process. This process begins with a study to forecast growth and prepare our land use assumptions. The land use assumptions, or LUAs, inform infrastructure improvement plans that identify what facilities are needed to serve new development, estimate the cost of those facilities, and then allocate those costs proportionately to new development. In addition to the growth study, professional consultants conducted infrastructure needs assessments, provided construction costs and land value estimates, and updated demand assumptions. All infrastructure improvement plans rely on methodologies that are widely used and accepted across the country. Today's hearing is on updated land use assumptions and infrastructure improvement plans. These are the principal supporting documents for the Development Impact Fee Program. As has been discussed, the land use assumptions guide where, what type, and when new facilities are needed based on growth projections. The city prepares separate infrastructure improvement plans for each fee category, 11 IIPs in total. The IIPs describe the underlying assumptions used to determine each fee for each impact fee service area. This table summarizes the 10-year growth estimates from the land use assumptions report. Starting with the balance of city at the bottom, essentially the established core of our city, you can see we're anticipating continued infill and redevelopment with more than 30,000 new residential units and over 22.8 million square feet of non-residential space. Moving up from the bottom, Ahwatukee and the southwest region comprised of Estrella and Levine are expected to substantially build out over the next 10 years, but you can see room to absorb significant units in those areas as well. The northern regions are expected to capture an increasing share of new development going forward, with the Northeast and Paradise Ridge regions being primed for new development early in this 10-year horizon, and the Northwest and Deer Valley areas lagging slightly as infrastructure facilities, backbone facilities get integrated into those locations. Over the last 5 years, the impact fee program generated about $240 million. That does not account for the substantial contributions made by private development, particularly for extending our horizontal infrastructure like roads, water lines, and sewer lines. Community members may not realize that the majority of new roads, water, and sewer lines that are extending those networks are provided by new development. In these cases, the impact fee program can help facilitate key infrastructure projects by providing a source of funding for reimbursement and through the impact fee credit program. In recent years, the impact fee program has helped directly fund fire stations and parks across the city. The program will cover the cost of a long-awaited bridge on North Valley Parkway at Sonoran Wash. The program has covered the city's share of regional drainage projects in Levine and in Estrella, and has helped make it possible for a funding solution to the Rawhide Wash project that will contain a floodplain in the eastern part of Desert View. With the proposed updates, we're projecting $1.6 billion in revenue, or in restricted revenue for those facilities over the next 10 years from 2025 to 2035. We have incorporated the water resiliency program. As I've discussed, we have included the program to contain the Rawhide Wash floodplain. And the impact fee program will support geobond projects for parks, libraries, and fire. We have revised our approach for fire stations such that we are following what we call a plan-based approach that allows us to optimize where we locate fire stations to ensure that we have response times that continue to meet our standards in these new developing areas, particularly in the north where the city is fragmented by washes and preserves and doesn't have the connectivity that we have in many other parts of the city. We have prioritized funding for bridges where there are properties that have been isolated or do not have access to the road network, and the city will be able to partner with private development to get those bridges constructed. And we are proposing to extend the water and wastewater treatment areas citywide to help ensure a robust water future for the city. I'll pause here and turn it over to Heidi, our chair of the Development Impact Fee Ad Hoc Committee.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's been my pleasure to serve in this capacity. I think this is number 3. I'm ready to retire as the ad hoc chairman. We had a great process. It was a little bit longer this year than it has been in past years because we have so many new fee not only new fee categories, but categories that were split to make more sense, to make the process more transparent. So that the committee actually really dives into all of the reports, all of the assumptions, including on a very granular basis, the land use assumptions about where the ad hoc task force believes new growth really will occur so that we have a great baseline from which to build on. We looked very thoroughly at all the IIPs, including questioning some of the assumptions about costs, and I believe you'll see some of that in the report that we submitted. The process was very transparent, and staff was wonderful to work with, as were the consultants. So it was a really great experience. We had, I don't even know how many people, 20 probably at least on the committee. Everybody was really engaged, so you got a lot of expertise for your buck. Thank you.
So, Mayor, members of council, as we close out, this item before you today is just a public hearing. No action is necessary, but you can see on the impact fee timeline on the screen here that we are at the first public hearing meeting, but we have been working at this with staff and consultants and as well as the various departments that have also donated a lot of staff time to work on, for example, the plan-based approach to fire stations that Adam just mentioned. The water department has played a significant role in helping us develop all of these plans that relate to the services they provide. And so our next step in this will be to come back before the council on December 18th and propose an action to approve the LUAs and infrastructure improvement plans. And then we would come forward in January with anticipated public hearing on the impact fee report and the actual fees. And then looking at a March, April timeline to come back to council to take action on those fees. And then pursuant to state law, they would take effect in May or June of 2025. With that, we are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions? Vice Mayor.
You know, I think it's important that you explain that the development community is paying their fair share, that taxpayers within these impact fee areas also pay. Could you just kind of expand on that, Adam, so people understand we're not putting the entire burden on one person, the developer?
Thank you, Councilwoman, for that question. Mayor, members of the council, through the impact fee program, we have an obligation to make sure that we are not collecting twice for the same types of improvements. And certainly there are other alternative revenue sources, whether it's water rates, sewer rates, tax revenue, that also helps to provide capital facility projects in the city of Phoenix. Where there's overlap in that case, we provide an offset, and what we call an offset. And what that is for is when new development is occupied, that becomes part of our ratepayer base or part of our tax base. And so those offsets are incorporated on the front end of the impact fee calculation. And to the Vice Mayor's point, yes, certainly those additional funding streams are critical to the city.
Thank you. I just wanted you to reiterate that point because it's important for everyone to understand, while these fees are pretty high in some cases, it is been driven by data, and we're trying to be fair, and we look at all the sources of revenue to help us build new projects. So I know it's a tough number to look at in some cases in some parts of the city, and I understand you're still starting to work with, or continue to work with, the industries to ensure that we have the appropriate fees. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Waring.
How would you respond to developers, I'm not saying there's merit in this, but some may say, well, now I'm not going to develop in District 2 because it's so expensive?
So, Mayor and Councilman Waring, I think that the answer in that question is also in the fact that the north part of Phoenix is a very desirable one to live in, and so it is going to be something that, because of the fact that the infrastructure needed to serve that area is expensive to invest in because there's a lack of it. It is an area where people want to live, and so if they choose not to go there, there are other developers that will choose to go there because it's a highly desirable place to live and work, as you all know from the economic development opportunities that we see happening up there with TSMC and the other sites that are happening in the Halo Vista project. There's a number of great opportunities happening around Mayo Discovery Oasis area in North Phoenix. And so those opportunities, along with the beautiful natural setting that's up there, are going to be drivers for people who want to build up there. And they're going to be making the investment knowing that there's a market for development there because of that surrounding area and what's happening.
All right, Mayor, I'll just say this. It is extremely expensive, no doubt about it. Apart from this, it's already expensive. Fewer big cases, less hateful emails to me. I guess I'm sort of okay with that in a way, but I think the Chris Mackeys of the world would like to see stuff go in, and we have seen what I would interpret as a little bit of a slowdown already, I think because of the expense. Traditionally, population growth in the city, District 2 had usually been number 2 in the city, I think for several decades in terms of the census, but this year it was 4th. Most of the growth in the city was in the southern part of the city. That's not good or bad. It's just, you're saying it's really desirable. I don't disagree. State land is saying it's really desirable. They're charging a fortune to have people buy property. But I notice a lot of that property has sat empty my entire tenure on this council, and I'm in year 13. So just something to consider. I'm not picking a side. I understand all the things that are said, but I have noticed I'm having fewer meetings with developers to put residents up there, or really a lot of anything up there. I know what you're saying about TSMC, so that, I've got a big district, so it goes from the Paradise Valley border down at basically Scottsdale and Cactus, or Scottsdale and Shea, depending on where you are, all the way up to I-17 and Carefree Highway, which is where you're talking about. But there are huge swaths of land that have been undeveloped for now decades, which just seems strange given there's stuff to the north and the south. Just food for thought. I guess you gave a response, and that's fair, but I guess I would say I do think the market is telling us something up there. It's a slowdown in population growth compared to what we'd see in the past, And I'm personally noticing fewer meetings. Fewer meetings works for me, but I definitely think city staff has wanted that to be an economic engine for the city, and it does seem like it's already cooled off a little bit.
Mayor and Councilman Waring, I think one of the things that you are seeing is the fact that the state land department is looking and working to develop larger auctions of their land. And so the principal reason that you have seen a development pattern in your time period up in District 2 is that the bulk of your land north of the CAP is owned by the Arizona State Land Department. And I've never met a private developer who said it was easy to work with state land department to develop their land. And so that has been a hindrance over time with them. But I think under the new administration, they are working to package their land in some larger land auctions so that those infrastructure costs can be borne by more acreage, because there isn't the ability to connect with as much other tax revenue as there has been in the past. So, for example, the council is well aware that the gas tax hasn't been raised since the 1970s. Cars are much more fuel efficient. The city's getting much less money from the state to help pay for roads. And so that means that in order to do those things, those costs have to go to the private developer who is building and making that need, because there aren't other sources of revenue to pay for those things. And so that's been an impediment and a challenge that the city's tried to work with the development community in a number of ways, and recognizing that this will be a challenge. We're not saying that this increase isn't something that is going to make people think twice about things. But I do think at the end of the day that what you are looking at with that area, with the economic development opportunities, its central location, and the surrounding that it's in, are going to make it very desirable for development going forward, so long as we continue to work with the state land department on bringing the larger parcels out to amortize those infrastructure costs.
Mayor, I'll just say this. I guess the state land department must be playing a very long game, because we're talking about decades, literally. And I've overlapped with 3 governors in this office, and I don't even know how many state land department directors of both parties. So really wildly diverse people and personalities. And it's been the same result. A lot of the folks who had talked pre-Great Recession about developing some of those parcels, I think some of them actually sold and then went back to the state. And one thing I was told when I first got in this office, when we weren't having any meetings because it was the Great Recession, was that a lot of the people who would have made the huge developments and investments like you're talking about went bust. So they weren't around. With that as sort of a backdrop, I can see why it might be a tough sell. You have fewer people who can afford to do it. You've made it much more expensive, not you personally, but state land department and just the nature of District 2 has made it much more expensive. But I'm just saying, if you're expecting to put more stuff around Mayo and everything and have the workers to do it, somebody's got to build housing somewhere. I mean, it can't all be apartments. Having said that, I've seen what's happened in my own neighborhoods where people have taken to bulldozing houses and then building sort of, I guess you'd call McMansions. But I mean, the prices are insane. And I always think how less desirable those properties would be if these people knew they were living anywhere close to me. I mean, they should be living next to NBA players or something for the prices they're paying. It's crazy. Proving that there is no circumstance where a Yogi Berra quote isn't in order, I am sort of thinking it's so expensive because it's so desirable, yet at the same time we're saying nobody wants to go there. I think about his quote about a fancy New York restaurant. He says, "Oh, it's so busy nobody goes there anymore." So think about that one for a second. But that is kind of what we're saying. But I just know that, 13 years and counting. We're going to have another recession at some point. That's not going to behoove people to build more houses. And I just, if we're going to do some of these great things like Mayo, they're going to need more people. Just like you pointed out, the TSMC, but a lot of that's District 1, and in any case, it's one small corner of a several hundred square mile district. So thank you. I appreciate you hearing me out. Just wanted to put those points out there.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Actually, Councilman Waring, you bring up some valid points, but I do agree with staff with regards to state land. It's very difficult to do business with state lands because in Ahwatukee, there is a parcel of land that is the only land left to develop, and it's state land, and it's sat vacant now since when I was the planning director. So it is very complicated working with state lands and how they have to process through their auctions. However, I do think it's important that you continue to talk to the development community, also look at different avenues and resources for funding, like the infrastructure bill. And I think that's what you're doing, correct? You're still having that dialogue. And hopefully, Councilman Waring, that may bring the fees down a little. I know that you were looking at a couple grant possibilities for a couple major projects. So as you continue to do that, we might see a slight change in the impact fees, perhaps? It's kind of a question, I guess.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, you are correct. The Water Services Department has applied for almost $300 million in grants to address some of the infrastructure needs up north relative to wastewater treatment plants, and the city will continue to pursue other grants. We have one for 64th Street as well going forward, and a bridge there. So over the CAP. So there are those opportunities. We'll continue to explore all of them as they come forward, and also continue to work with the development community and state land department to look at creative ways to try and address some of these things. We talked about the impediment that working through some of the legal requirements the state land has, but that isn't in control of the staff that are there. There are some legal impediments that are there statutorily that create challenges for them. But one of the opportunities that is there, because they are the largest landowner up north, is the ability to work with them on ensuring that we can have larger parcels come out and address some of those concerns, and potentially have them work on being creative with us to get some of those big infrastructure items met and completed. So Adam mentioned the Rawhide Wash one, for example, and that's one made possible by some extra funding that was in the flood control district budget because a project didn't go forward, and then the state land department was able to make that work on another sale and have some conditions on it that got us matching funds to be eligible for that, because it all benefited their land and the trust at the end of the day. And so as much as we joke about there being some impediments there are some opportunities that we'll continue to explore with the state land staff.
Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. I was curious, because Councilman Warren actually got to some of my points before I was able to ask my questions as well. I was curious, has any of our consultants or any of the vendors that we've used so far looked to determine whether or not the proposed impact fee, what effect the impact fees would have on potential growth? The reason I ask this is because the impact fees, yeah, they're going to be borne by the developer, but then the developer eventually carries those costs on to ultimately the homeowner. And yesterday we went through a very refreshing and comprehensive view of our housing plan, and it showed where we were on the housing needs. And I just want to make sure that we are considering all of the components that go into housing affordability. So I just want to make sure, has any consultant opined on this?
Councilmember Hodge Washington, Mayor, members of the council, we have not asked for an economic study of the nature that you described, Councilwoman. What I would kind of go back to, and again to Councilmember Waring's questions as well, is to highlight that the facilities identified in these infrastructure improvement plans are necessary. They are not discretionary in the sense that they can be stripped out or stripped down without reducing a service level. And so the question becomes less of, what are we paying for versus how are we paying for it? And then, how does that affect the cost of living? Whether it shows up in a home buyer's mortgage or a renter's rent, or whether it shows up in a water bill or a property tax or otherwise.
And I understand the significance of the infrastructure that's necessary, and I also don't want us as a city to be solely reliant on federal or state funding for these infrastructure needs. I just want to make sure that we are going into this, in my opinion, with the eyes wide open, understanding what that is versus leaving it more to hypotheticals or conjecture as to what the net effect would be of this. Those are just my concerns. Because I understand, I feel like we're caught in a catch-22. We need to do this in order to grow, but I just want to make sure that we do this in a manner that is reflective or knowledgeable of all the factors that that go into it as well. So thank you for considering my comments.
Thank you. We have, for virtual public comment, Patrice. Open the public hearing, and now we'll go to Patrice.
Hi there. Thank you all for your comments. The point was made earlier that I want to focus on that it's already expensive for developers to construct these improvements. And in my experience, qualifying through the impact fee program for reimbursement has been historically challenging and time consuming. And I think it's important to acknowledge that reimbursement following construction completion doesn't change the dollar amount the developer is required to fund on the front end. And then the other thing I think is important to recognize is land uses are constantly changing. Public improvements are negotiated on a project by project basis, and today's impact fee map may be different tomorrow. So how do we either support developers in an equity contribution on the front end in order to fund the improvements, or how can we be certain prior to proceeding with development or construction that if a land use should change, that reimbursement will be warranted before the risk is taken? Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that is all of the comments we have. We will close the public hearing, and a reminder, this is a significant process, so there'll be other opportunities to provide input. Want to thank the committee for being involved, and Heidi, that 3 times is certainly a service to our city, so thank you for being willing to come back.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I was happy to do it. Thank you.
This is really important to our city. So many of our most beloved projects, from new community centers to life-saving fire stations, come out of this process. Water will be a really important part of this discussion, but I think we need to recognize, particularly on the wastewater side, we have to have that infrastructure there, and it creates value for people who are developing in our community. People will pay more for a facility that has wastewater service. We don't want septic. We want good water service as well as clean water to deliver, and so that adds value for our entire community, but developers capture some of that value. So it really is an important process. Thank you to everyone who has been participating. We will see you in the future. That concludes this agenda item. I want to remind folks that items 73 through 78 have been continued. That includes a zoning case in District 6 and a zoning case in District 8. If you want to know when those items will be back, it is on the board that tracks this meeting. We will next go to agenda item 79, a rezoning application review timeframe and written protest petition exemption. Would any of we had a policy meeting where we covered this process, so I'm not going to ask for a second staff report unless anyone wants one. All right, we will open public hearing. Denise, we do not have anyone for this public hearing. We will close the public hearing. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, I move to approve per the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Waring, Stark,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Thank you. We will next move forward with public comment. We'll introduce that, and then the very first to go will be the very patient Blue Crowley, who we promised would be able to go first. But first, I'll ask our city attorney to explain this portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. During citizen comment, members of the public may address the City Council for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The citizen comment session is limited to 30 minutes. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the City Council to listen to the comments but prohibits council members from discussing or acting on the matters presented.
Thank you. Blue will be first, followed by Diane Barker.
Your Honor, I'd like to have 6 minutes because I want to speak on what you didn't allow me to speak on last week and also specifics to today's agenda.
We don't add additions, so please enjoy your 3 minutes.
I understand that, but, well, thank you for your indulgences last week. I feel that the tyranny that was occurring was that you noticed that I had your article in the paper, and I usually deal with what is coming up with on that proposition that did pass. And one of the things I was going to point out is the major investments in all the roadways here that are going to be going onto the freeways. They don't have any bus facilities on there. And I wonder why. When you guys were doing the thing on shade and the pedestrians, the city doesn't have an active use of paint as a weapon, because how many unmarked crosswalks are there and why? When I look at the shade situation, you have what, close to 900 of your bus stops that aren't shelters? Now, with the past monies that you got for this situation, why wasn't a part of that building bus stops and bus shelters? And in the new one, how come it ain't there? Now, at today's managers meeting, a nice thing came out. It says transit life cycle program, bus rapid transit, express routes, etc. Now, I've asked forever to be given what the ones were that were deferred and delayed, etc. And this is the document I got from them that doesn't have that in there, but it also has no bus stops, where it has funding, zero funding. But then when I look at this and I see, oh, it's Anthem and Apache Junction and Avondale and the Loop 303. But then also in this, it has the Loop 303, or the 303 was supposed to have a Bell Road bus extending all the way to there. And in the statements that MAG has, it doesn't show any of that. And when we talk about MAG and you point your finger, say, hey, that's MAG. In a weighted vote, Your Honor, who has it? In a weighted vote, Phoenix. Whatever Phoenix wants, it happens. So when you say MAG, you're the ones that control MAG and do it. So when I see all of these roadways that aren't going to be getting any bus facilities, but we are going to extend it to the freeways for the congestion on the East Valley that's there. Well, if you've got congestion, where is their bus? And where is the plan for it? And when I look at the document that says, these are the roadways, Your Honor, where in the middle is there is Phoenix? Oh yeah, it's the major part. Thank you for your time. And on public comment, it shouldn't be time, it should be input. And when you've got people inputting for 6 minutes rather than 3, the ones that we're only going to use 3 should have been able to be heard.
Diane is next, followed by Shayna.
Good afternoon, Mayor Gallego and Phoenix City Council. I'm in District 7, and I'm going to miss our councilman. He will be, now we've got a new person that will be taking his place, I guess, at the beginning of the year or sooner. No? Yeah, can you respond?
I'm here to April.
Yay. You're there till what?
April 25th at 9:59 a.m.
Okay, well, be seeing you around. Be seeing you around, and I enjoyed the tree program, and all of you support that, and we were able to get a tree quickly over to the one that was mischievously taken out at Roosevelt. But I like the red, white, and blue. The city lit up for the Veterans Day. I do celebrate that. My family is Air Force. And I just would like to share with you tonight, there's going to be an EPA hearing on the Superfund. And that, Mayor, it's right down your alley there. I hope that you'll be right on top of that because that's been a long time. It's from the Motorola spill. It's 7 miles and it's in the city of Phoenix from 20th Clearway over to 7th Avenue, McDowell down to Buckeye and by the airport. And so what it is that the proposal for the cleanup of the contamination of groundwater because it affects our drinking water. That's going to be from 5:30 to 7 over Burton Bar right here. And so I will be going there and, I look forward to that. Good luck on the passage. Your proposition's passed. I hope you'll mind the monies well. And the Regional Area Road Fund, that did pass too. And as Mr. Crawley pointed out, Phoenix has a lot of that shared revenue. It's not only for our roads, but also our transit. And what we're doing, we need to make sure that the city oversees these contractors and they understand the elements that we live in here in the desert, and we need that shade. And, if you're going to have water, don't have it so that it burns your hand. They think that it just comes up cold. Well, it burns your hand in getting it. So we want some human thing. As far as the open meeting law knows, I see, Mayor, that you give the oath of office. And people take that, and you do too. I don't want to see the city get into any type of thing where a person can't freely express themselves in a nonviolent manner. And so they can ask staff to get back to them, and they can criticize.
Shayna is next, followed by Timothy.
Madam Mayor and City Council, thank you for allowing me the chance to provide my comments today. My name is Shayna Brown, and I'm an Arizona native who has lived in the Valley my entire life. I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous, but after watching Coco and Christy get up here week after week, I knew that it was important to get up and let you all know that animal welfare is an important topic for so many citizens such as myself. I'm not a part of any rescue group. I'm just an average, everyday person in the community who wants to make a difference. I have always had such high regard for Phoenix and take great pride in it being our state's capital. Over the past few years, I have been watching Hand Over Rover, Poverty's Pets, and Sky Sanctuary, who focus rescue efforts in the Phoenix area, and have also witnessed firsthand the rising number of stray and abandoned dogs and cats in our city. I knew I needed to try to do something to bring attention to this issue so we can help the innocent animals who have no choice in the matter but are suffering every day. I wanted to let you all know that people in the community like myself want to help and be part of the solution. I urge all of you to meet and continue meeting with these great rescues and individuals who come to these sessions and hear their firsthand experiences so we can work on a sustainable solution and help end animal neglect and cruelty in the great city of Phoenix. If you're not already, I urge each of you to follow Hand Over Rover, Poverty's Pets, and Sky Sanctuary on Instagram and other social media platforms. I look forward to opportunities where the public can get involved and hope you all continue to have open minds and hearts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You're a natural. Timothy is next, followed by Renee.
Good afternoon, Mayor Gallego and members of the City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. Ms. Mayor, congratulations on your victory. I bet a lot of people are speculating whether we might see a Gallego versus Gallego Democratic senatorial primary in 2030. Perhaps Hollywood will make a movie based on it. I'd like to make a few comments about what I see as a big quality of life problem.
Waiting for others to join.
I think that a big problem that we have in the neighborhood in which I live anyway is all of the garbage and gravel on the street. I have occasion to walk along East Thomas Road from 40th Street to almost 49th Street on a regular basis. And to me, there's so much garbage on the sidewalk and the street that it's annoying and appalling. When I'm walking down the street and I see all this garbage in the walkway, I try to kick it out of the way to the curb, but there's just so much there. It seems that it takes me maybe about 25 to 50% longer to get where I want to go. It makes me frustrated and angry. I wish that Phoenix could put a lot more waste baskets out on the streets. I hardly see any now. I think they should try putting the receptacles encased in cement and put the metal cans inside them in order to prevent their being stolen or vandalized. The cement can would have a metal lid which would close onto the metal can. The cement can and the metal can would have holes, and you could line up the holes on the metal can and the cement can and put screws in to lock the metal can in so nobody could steal or vandalize it. Also, why must there be pebbles or gravel all over Phoenix? Maybe Arizona should not be called the Grand Canyon State, but the Gravel State. I hate it so much because it seems that the dogs come along and paw it all over onto the sidewalk where it doesn't belong. Then you have to walk over all that stuff. It's slippery and it messes up the soles of your shoes. It wouldn't be bad if it only happened occasionally, but this seems to be a daily occurrence. Can the Phoenix City Council perhaps pass an ordinance mandating that all property owners who have gravel which borders public areas put up a small fence that's large enough to deter dogs from pawing the gravel onto the sidewalk? Perhaps violators could be fined $50 to $100. Or better still, just take out the gravel. Thank you.
Thank you. Renee is next, followed by Coco.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Council, distinguished council members. My name is Renee Dominguez, and I live in the Homedale neighborhood, which is 35th Avenue to 41st Avenue, Lincoln to Buckeye Road. I am a resident. Since 1992, we owned our home prior to that when my husband had purchased it in the 80s. I'm here to address an issue with our park, Smith Park. Last formal meeting, you had some individuals that addressed you. They do not live in our neighborhood. They do take advantage of Smith, but I'm one that they probably said that I'm aggressive, which I'm not aggressive with them, but I do hold them accountable to the agreement, the operating agreement that the city made with the organization, and its operating agreement 153775-0, which was entered into in 2021, January 31st. Without our knowledge, it was increased and the Parks Board in January 28th, a consent item, and it was approved to extend their contract for 10 years without any input from us, the residents, who are having issues with that organization not complying, not doing youth activities. We don't have anything for our kids. Cuban Park has a lot of theft, a lot of issues. It's not open. There's no community room. Falcon Park doesn't have a community room. The only park that has a community room is Smith Park. I'm asking that the city in Parks and Recs do a new performance evaluation on this group. They were done originally in 2022 and they failed. Every item they failed except for if they were courteous and polite, the professionalism of the park. I think we could do better. You guys have a master plan for parks. Well, don't forget that we exist in that area and that we do. I was lucky enough to get 5 Activate My Park grants, one last minute. The last one, we had 500 people attend. 176 of them were youth of our community. So I want to know how many people actually take advantage of that organization, the dance group that they're providing. I think we could do better for my community. Thank you.
Thank you. Coco is next, followed by Christy.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Coco Garcia. I'm the founder of Handover Rover Animal Rescue here in Phoenix. Today, I'm here to request your help in the astronomical amount of strays that we have on the streets of Phoenix. This is the worst we've ever seen it, and there is no way that we are going to rescue our way out of this. Our enforcement officers are fighting a losing battle. Recently, I lived in 85008, which along with 009 and 040, excuse me, are at the peak of stray animals, both born to the street and abandoned. The cat population is out of control, and there's no stopping it. Last year, between a couple of us ladies, we altered 45 cats. We didn't put a dent in anything. 19 of the 25 dogs that reside in my home, which is where my rescue is, came from these streets. These are lower income areas. Spay neuter isn't cheap, not even for rescues. I've watched people in these areas try to remedy this themselves by running over the animals. I've picked up many dead animals from the streets. I know that they have poisoned them. And when they couldn't afford the litters their personal pets had because they couldn't afford to get them altered, the litters were abandoned in the alleys. I watched a group of young boys lure a kitten into oncoming traffic. The kitten died in my arms. It's becoming normal and acceptable for our younger generations to get involved in eliminating animals like this. And we all know that abuse and domestic violence is more prevalent in lower income areas. And it always starts with the animals. There's a saying, hurt people hurt people. And my friend Sailor Jerry said, hurt people also hurt animals. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, being poor is really terrible. It hurts a lot. It hurts because there's not a lot of options, and the ones that are there are very, very limited. It's not on us to undo the choices that some of these people have made, but it is on us to work harder to help find better solutions for people that want the help and that are swimming towards the ship. People need to know that we care about them. People in these areas need the help. That will have a trickle effect. One of the ways that we've come up with in coming up with an idea is offering low-cost spay-neuter clinics, mobile spay-neuter clinics. If we can increase the licensing, which is a large portion of how the shelters are funded, we could lower the shelter's costs and use the extra to initiate mobile spay-neuter clinics for some of these lower income areas. Without stopping this reproduction, this is going to get out of control. There's no way that we can get ahead of this, and we certainly can't do this alone. We need the help of our city. We need the help of you guys. We need to work on this together. Thank you for listening. Christy is going to discuss more topics.
Thank you, Christy, and then Missy.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Christy Margario. I'm speaking on behalf of a group of concerned Phoenix citizens that have been working to improve animal welfare within our city. Today, myself and Coco Garcia of Handover Rover that just spoke are telling you about one of the root causes we've identified in the dog and cat overpopulation crisis in Phoenix. Did you know research has shown one unaltered female dog and her offspring can produce 67,000 dogs in only 6 years? And one unaltered female cat and her offspring can produce a mind-blowing 370,000 cats in 7 years. According to Maricopa County Animal Care and Control, the majority of the dogs they pick up are unaltered. Thankfully, nearly every dog leaving county is altered before being released. In Phoenix, local nonprofits offer free and low-cost spay-and-neuter clinics up to monthly as funding allows. Some local nonprofits even run spay-and-neuter clinics for feral cats. This means cats that no one's owned are captured, surgically altered, and released just to control the population. All of these efforts, and still, the supply greatly outweighs the demand of these animals. How can we expect our enforcement officers to keep up with this exponentially growing issue? We need to stop unwanted litters from being born. If we don't, we can expect the price tag of the city's contracts with MAC and AZ Humane for animal welfare services to exponentially increase as they struggle to keep up with intake from the community. Currently, citizens are performing animal control services via no-cost and low-cost spay and neuter clinics using their own funds raised by community donations. It is like drinking water from a fire hose. And still, it's not enough. Animal control services are the responsibility of our city, our county, and our state, not that of citizens. From 2022 to 2027, the city will have paid over $5 million in fixed costs plus uncapped variable costs under one animal welfare services contract. Under the second and third contracts, the initial year alone cost the city approximately $3.1 million. None of these contracts include any spay and neuter services to stop the procreation of these animals. Based on the data I shared earlier, in combination with a current daily rate charged by county, a mandatory 3-day hold period for one unaltered female dog and her offspring could cost the city well over $7.2 million in 6 years. Even if only half of those dogs live and get picked up by county, that would cost the city $3.6 million. And that is only for the mandatory 3-day hold period. According to MAC, the average length of a stay for a dog is 9 days. Mathematically, we cannot shelter, rescue, and adopt our way out of this. We need to slow down the supply as the community and our enforcement officers cannot keep up. Thank you for your time, and we will see you next month.
Thank you. Missy is next, followed by Elizabeth Venable.
Hi, Mayor and City Council. I'm Missy Pruitt. My initiative is She's All Cat. Basically, same as I told you the last 3 months, I am a cat educator, advocate, and I'm here to legislate and communicate with the public about cat welfare. I just wanted to tell you a couple stories. I'm sure you guys are just want to hear these, but just this morning, I was called about a Safeway bag in a trash dumpster, double tied with 6 4-week-old kittens alive in it. So this was one we found. I know we don't want to hear that, but this is the fact, and this is what we found. Those are 1,000 more that we don't find that are suffering and getting smashed, and it's not okay. I wanted to tell you another story. Last year, I had a meeting with 2 senators. I was super excited with the group we were with, talk about the Farm Bill, and I was all dressed up. I had my suit on, and someone called about a cat that was thrown off Bethany Home Road off the I-17. Apparently, this has been an issue. A lot of cats have been thrown off this same area, but no one's checked into it. No one's done anything about it, even though there's been lots of people calling about it and talking to our whoever we're supposed to tell about that. I went and got her. I was able to catch one of them. The other one that we weren't able to get, she had broken pelvis, broken ribs, a smashed face. We named her Bethany, and I thought she was going to die the next day. She lived because the community came together and paid probably $5,000 in care to her. And now she's living her best life, but that's just one happy story. That's not the norm. Just to remind you what the previous rescue advocates of saying. We have over 500,000 cats living on our streets suffering every day. This is not an animal welfare issue. This is a human rights issue. This is a mental health issue. In Peoria last summer, I went to a 3-bedroom apartment where there was 186 cats living in this home. There was children in this home. There was dead kittens all over this home. Maricopa County was going to come at 5 p.m. and lock the doors and just keep the doors open, let all the cats out, and then lock the doors because cats are free roaming and that's allowed for them to do. Tempe, Glendale, Mesa, Chandler all have some sort of program for their cats of the crisis we're in. Tempe, that's been a huge, amazing advocate for animals, has an office of animal welfare along with a community cat program. What if our private citizens stopped doing this TNR and this animal rescue? I think that rescuers do so much that it masks the problem, and then the general public doesn't see it. I also think that we need to teach kids to be compassionate, and that's something that you have to teach. You can learn it, but you also have to teach it. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth is next, followed by Frank.
Sorry for the delay. Okay, so Elizabeth Venable, born and raised Phoenix, Arizona, born about 2 miles away from here. I was not able to attend the meeting yesterday, so I wanted to give my commentary sort of related to the housing progress and issues. Basically, I wanted to support or encourage any effort to find sustainability funding for the programs that have been developed for homeless recently from the ARPA money, because I found out, or at least it appears to me from comments made by Councilwoman Pastor, that there isn't a lot of sustainability plan for these sort of developments. And, you know, I've always encouraged that money come out of the general fund, right? And I'm not opposed to that, and I think it's a good idea. However, I get a little worried, to be honest, when everything falls back on general fund money, for which historically there has not been there have not been housing allocations out of the general fund that are significant. You've been relying on the ARPA funding for so long, and you know, it frustrates me. It frustrates me as a grant writer. You know, it frustrates me as someone who thinks about raising revenues all the time. You know, and you know, so I would just, you know, encourage that, you know, you take a serious look at you know, maybe getting more, trying to say this, more results in terms of generating revenues in this area, more attention to it. I think that it's fiscally responsible to provide these resources to the community. It basically allays other costs that would otherwise come from keeping people on the streets. And it's a net win for the city of Phoenix to continue these programs. I understand that there are a lot of pressures right now to do the criminalization aspect of it. However, sort of like the funding, it's not sustainable in the long term. It doesn't solve the problem. And I understand that, like, Prop 312 passed, and, you know, the city may be penalized for not combating nuisance. However, you know, one of the best ways to get people to not be a nuisance, right, is to get them back stable on their feet, have housing, etc. And we also, I have a letter I sent all of you. It outlines, I'll just finish real quick. It outlines suggestions from our members as to evidence-based practices and their direct needs for what they think would actually help address their situations. So,
Thank you.
Sorry
Frank
for the-
is next, followed by Terry Perez.
Hello, Phoenix City Council. I'm Frank Urban with Fund for Empowerment. I would like to speak on public housing and a more efficient, more about sustainable public housing for the homeless and the disadvantaged in Phoenix. Affordable housing should be affordable housing for all, including the homeless. And I think I understand Prop 312 just passed, and you guys are under the gun because of that. But in my opinion, that money that is supposed to be sent to the business owners to build fences and gates and stuff like that to keep people out would do better in going towards mental health solutions or recovery solutions for drug use and alcoholism. And I think this should be coming out of the general fund. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry Perez will be our final speaker.
Hi, are you able to hear? Hello? Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, all right, thank you. Hi, Mayor Gallegos and City Council members. I'm also going off of what Renee Dominguez, I'm also a longtime Homedale resident, live right across the street from Smith Park. Myself, over 20 years, my husband's family, over 40 years, homeowners here in this community. And we've been dealing with this Fiesta Mexicana dance company who took over our community center, but have not done what the paperwork said that they were doing. Unfortunately, I was a signer. I was invited to review organizations, and on paper, it looked like they were going to bring lots of great programs for our community. But the only thing that's been brought is a dance company. Google our park, it says dance company. It's not a community center. And it just saddens me that our younger have the same thing that our older kids, when the city of Phoenix ran the park, or when downtown urban community kids, they had an awesome program for over 5 years. Then unfortunately COVID hit, and then this organization came in. I'm having to send families to Chicago's Policazo Community Center on Van Buren and 35th Avenue for after school programs or family type events. It just saddens me that this community center is the only one here. The other closest, like Renee said, is Cuban Park, which is closed. The park by Carl Hayden, that's under construction, but there's no community center either. The only other option would be Levine, which is way down on 35th Avenue and Baseline. We're not from we're from a lower income area, so not everybody can afford to drive here and there to look for good programs. I've been in contact with Joe Diaz, Deputy Director, since 2021 about this. It's just the city of Phoenix needs to do something. 2021, we're already heading into 2025 with no after school programs, with no summer programs. We need help. Our kids in our community need help. Thank you.
Thank you to all who participated. Today's meeting is adjourned.